Hi, it's Jerry with I Love RV Life. Today we have another 12 volt 300 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery to look at. This is the 12 volt 300 amp hour LiTime battery. Can't wait to try this one out. Hi, this is Jerry. We have another 300 amp hour 12 volt lithium iron phosphate battery to look at. We're going to evaluate this one very similar to what we did with our last one. This one is by LiTime. Now LiTime is not a new company. They've been around for a while. They've rebranded their name. They were AmpereTime. And we were looking, after we did our last review with a different manufacturer, for another 300 amp hour battery. As soon as we did our video the last time, they sold out. Sorry about that. And we started searching for something else. LiTime contacted us. I said, send us one and we would love to be able to evaluate it. We like that large 300 amp hour form factor besides using like, three 100s. We just like this larger capacity. And we like the larger form factor. We had 3 lead acid batteries before. This is just a huge game changer as far as reducing weight and almost tripling our power. When you look at a lead acid battery, I mentioned this before in previous videos, you only get 50% of that capacity. You've got a 100 amp battery, you get 50. You put 2 of them together, 200 amp batteries that are lead acid, you put them in parallel, you get 100 amps. So, you've got to have to put another whole battery in there, a very heavy battery, another expensive battery, just to be able to get 100 amp of power. The great thing about lithium iron phosphate is you can discharge these down to about 10% of their capacity. So 300 amps, that's roughly about 270 amp hours of power. And we're finding with that much, we can run 6, 7, 8, 9 hours with no solar on a full battery and still have about 80% of our capacity. Think about that, traveling 7, 8, 9 hours, having 80% of your capacity left. That's running that big old residential refrigerator back there. That's running slides in and out as we leave, back out when we get to our destination, running our jacks up and down, using a good bit of power, and usually a stop somewhere in the middle, having, lunch, and we'll turn the lights on. We may even turn the TV on that's over here to my right. And we also have, coming off the inverter, some accessory plugs that we might even put a fan on, that if it's a little warm inside the fifth wheel, we'll have all those things going, and still 6, 7, 8 hours later we can get to our destination, run everything back out. We still got about 80% of capacity left. Now, we have 200 watts of solar. I know that's not a lot, but on a bright sunny day, that's just enough to keep this battery capped off. So from a boondocking standpoint, bright sunny day, we could get 3 or 4 days out of this, and if we had to, we could hook the generator up to this, to the camper, boost up the battery a little bit, charging it through our charger converter, and here we go. We can go 3 or 4 more days again. So this is just an absolutely perfect application for us. Let me give you some specifications about this LiTime 300 amp hour 12 volt battery. These cells in these batteries are prismatic. Nominal voltage that you would see on these is 12.8 volts. Again, the rated capacity is 300 amp hours. When you're looking at energy, that's 3,840 watt hours. I find that amazing. Life cycle for charging is 4,000 times. I don't think we'll ever get there. It does have a 200 amp BMS that's in the system. Charge voltage is 14.4 volts, and the recommended charge current is 60 amps, but you can hit it with a maximum charge current of 200 amps. So think about that, 200 amps, and this thing will charge up super quick. Continuous discharge current of 200 amps. We will never use that much. Maximum discharge current 400 amps in 5 seconds. Again, that's for surge if you wanted to look at this. And maximum continued output power 2,560 watts. That is a bunch. Now let's look at the temperature range. Charging is 32 degrees Fahrenheit to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Discharge is a -4 Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you're just storing it for long periods of times, you can store it at 14 degrees Fahrenheit or 122 degrees Fahrenheit. So let me share with you what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. What I'm not going to do is destroy this battery. I don't want to destroy it because I want to use it. I want to use it for long term, and I'll give you updates as time goes on how this battery is performing. Now, if you'd like to see where these batteries are completely disassembled and see how they're made up, then I would suggest going to the great channels of Will Prowse. He does an absolutely phenomenal job, or Lithium Solar. Both of these guys are very talented. They'll disassemble the battery down to the prismatic cells, pull all the wiring off of it, and show you everything that you need to know. And I imagine if they don't have a LiTime, they will here pretty soon. They probably got an ampere time, and this again is the same company. So go out there and look and see how these are manufactured. Now, above and beyond that, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to show you a practical application of how this battery works. Now, here's the practical application. I'm going to simulate a long tow between campground A and campground B with a stop in the middle for overnight. And here's what's going to happen. 8 hours, I'm just going to have nothing but the inverter going and keeping this refrigerator alive, keep it cold with all of our goods in it for 8 solid hours. That's all that's going to be shown. I'm going to do 2 30-minute stops inside those 2 8 hours, which I'm going to simulate pulling over at a rest stop for lunch. So again, lights on, using the refrigerator, doing those types of things. So that's real world for us. That's what it looks like when we're towing. I don't always do 8 or 9 hours, but I want to stretch the battery during that period of time. Then, in the middle of the trip, so after 8 hours, I'm going to then simulate what it would be for us to do an overnight. So for another, we'll just say 6, 7, 8 hours. I don't know how long I'm going to go. We'll just see how much time that I have for this video. I'm going to keep the refrigerator going. We're going to have all these lights that you see turned on. We're going to have those going. We have 7 receptacles in here. They operate the TV. They operate our theater seating that we have here. They're 120 volt, but they also pull off the inverter. We have a receptacle up in the bedroom that I'll hook some fans up. We even have a receptacle that's right over here, and I like to use those Black & Decker single serve coffee makers, not the cup, but the single serve Black & Decker. I'm going to make a cup of coffee as though we're going to be leaving the next morning. So again, I'm going to put that stress on the battery. We're buttoning everything back up, and then another 8 hours traveling. So that's what it would look like for us to travel. I'm also going to turn the TV on at that stop. I didn't mention that. We'll just go ahead and use off-air antenna and see how that's working. Again, we'll catch some news and maybe watch a little bit of TV. I'm going to plug in a couple iPads and let those charge, a couple phones and let those charge during that period of time, and then boom, we'll head out the next 8 hours. I got a feeling if it looks like anything before, we will consume a good portion of this battery. All right, enough of that. Let's head outside. Let's go ahead and get this hooked up. It's easy breezy. It's 2 bolts. It's only going to take a minute, and then we'll get the test underway. All right, I've got the battery put in place and strapped down good and tight. You'll see my 2-aught cables that I have coming in. I'm going to go ahead and check the voltage on this, just see what came in from the factory before I go any further. Let's see, came from the factory at 13.17 volts. Okay, so I know we've got a good charge on it. And we'll go ahead and get this hooked up real quick. Should take me just a minute, and then we'll get to charging. It comes with all the hardware to be able to do this, which is really nice. No spark. I've got all the power. I've got the solar charger turned off. Let's see, you can see right there is my solar charger. So I've got it turned off. Nothing coming in from the charger converter. I have a 75 amp charger. Now I do have a box. I'll show you that. I'll put this box over it that has the heater in it, of course. I'm doing this the 1st of March, And it's 81 degrees out here today, so I think cold weather is over for us in the southeast. All right, that's installed. Let's put the power on it, and then we will do the cover. So first let's start with the solar. You'll also see on this box, apologize for it being dark in here, but I've got an on-off switch here, and that's for the heater blanket that's on the top of here. It's one of those tank heater blankets. Before I finish for today, while I'm letting this charge up, I did want to put up a chart here just to show you if you wanted to maximize your lithium iron phosphate installation and really wanted to go with something big. This will show you the maximum capacity that can be set up either in your camper, or if you wanted to use this off-grid at your home or cabin or wherever that may be. So let's look at this chart. In a series connection, let's say you wanted to go with a 48-volt system, you could put 4 of these batteries together for 300 amp hours at 48 volts. Also in a parallel configuration, that's what I would see me using in, say, an RV instance. You can put 4 of these together. Look at this, for 1,200 amp hours. So the BMS here will be able to support 4 of those in a 48 configuration in series, or 4 in a parallel for a massive 1,200 amp hour installation. I think I could go a while off grid with something like that and run a lot of things, probably the air conditioner too, especially with one of these soft starts that we have. So anyway, it's pretty impressive when you're starting to look at it. Okay, we're gonna let this thing cap off, and it'll be tomorrow, and we will do the long-term testing. It's been 7.5, almost 8 hours since I cut the power to the 5th wheel, and this first part of our test is to simulate exactly what it would be like during a tow. During this period, all the lights were off, slides were in, and the only thing that was running was the refrigerator that we have in here running through an inverter, and then I also have a small 12-volt DC refrigerator that's also running down in the storage bay. So I've had all those devices running for this 7.5, almost 8 hours. So this is what it looks like when we tow. I've come back inside, I've turned some lights on, run the slides out, still leaving everything on. I also, again, to simulate what it would be like when we pulled into, say, a harvest hose for the afternoon or evening, I ran the awning out. I'll run it back in later. So again, those various things that we typically do when we pull into a campground. So let's stop here and look and see what the apps look like with our Victron solar controller. I'll go ahead and share this with you. We've had no solar today. If anything, if we had 5 watts during the day, I would be shocked. It has rained, it's cloudy, it's overcast. I had to go in and take the t-shirt off and put some sleeves on because it's gotten cool all of a sudden. So it's just been one of those dreary, dreary days, one of those days you just hate to travel in. So no solar. And we'll check the shunt too and just see how much we have consumed during this 7.5, 8 hours. So let's take a look at that. And again, we'll start with solar just to, again, just to look and see what we're getting on this dreary day. 9 watts. Okay, woohoo. We're getting 2/10 of an amp of solar. I didn't expect much. So let's get out of that. And now let's go to the smart shunt and just see how much we have burned in this period of time with 2 refrigerators running. Okay, so what is that? 17%. 17% of 2 refrigerators running, a large refrigerator, and then that small one down in the bay. Again, running the slides out, running the awning out. We've used this much capacity today. So, you know, that's about what I expected. Putting a good bit of draw on just this battery during that period of time, but less than 20%. So pretty happy with that. Again, with no other power coming in. So that's a good application to start with. So what we're going to do now for about the next 7 hours, I am going to show what it would be like for Joan and I just to pull over and leave some things on. So right now I've got a lot of lights on just for the video of this. So I've got the TV turned on here. So you see that. I'm going to leave that on. That's on antenna TV. That's something that we would have on for a period of time. So we'll actually see how that's going to draw. Not a whole lot. Again, this is not a 12 volt TV. This is 120 volt. Lights are going to be 12 volts. Refrigerator here is going to continue to run as well. I'm going to turn some lights on. I'm going to go ahead and let you see what it looks like. It'll get a little dark from a camera perspective. So let me turn a few of these lights off here and put it back in more of a normal mode. So we'll leave these trim lights on. That's something we typically do. We'll turn those on. We'll probably have the kitchen light on here. These are, again, all LED lights. We'll turn that on over here. There we go. That's nice. That's nice. That's about what we would normally have while we're traveling around. Again, I'm a little dark here. I'll turn those lights on just for filming purposes here so you can see me well. No solar. We're just running off this 300 amp hour battery. So I think this is going to be a good test. Okay, I will see you in a few hours. All right, we're back. It's after 10 o'clock. It's after 10 o'clock at night. So this would look like what we would do when we get to a campground after a very long tow, 7-8 hours, long tow. And then, 4 o'clock, we're going to kick the slides out like we've already done. Do some recliner time, kind of catch up, turn the TV on as we've done here, fix some supper. We'll just use the propane stove. And the refrigerator's been running. The refrigerator down below has been running. So we've had, quite a bit of power that's been pulling off of these batteries. I think I just looked a minute ago. We were at 12.8 volts, which is still a lot of capacity left in these batteries. So now the activity for the evening is going to go down considerably. We're going to turn all the TVs off. All the lights will go off down here. If anything, we'll have our phones plugged in, charging them for the night. And one of the things that I'm noticing as far as draw, this is kind of interesting. We have USB ports in here that were provided by the factory that pull off of the battery supply. We've got USB charging ports everywhere. We've got 2 here, we've got 1 over there, we've got 2 in the bedroom. And I've never noticed this before, but those consume about 400 watts of power. I've never noticed that before in all the testing that I've done. I turned everything else off. That was the only thing that was on. And those things pull a lot of what I call vampire power. So that's been kind of interesting. So in addition to everything else that's been going on, these USB ports are pulling a lot of continuous power. They never shut off. Ugh. So I need to find a switch to turn those off and on is what it sounds like. All right, so we're going to call it a night. We're still, like I said, we're running a little over 12.8 volts. I think we'll make it through the night. Again, this is a worst case scenario. Absolutely no charge coming into these batteries. I am just flat. And tomorrow it's supposed to rain again. So even when I get up in the morning, I doubt that I'm going to be getting any sun on this battery. So we're going to shut all the lights off. Still going to leave the fridge running over here and the fridge down below. And we'll just see how much is left in the morning. See you tomorrow. Well, good morning. It's day 2 of testing this LiTime 300 amp hour battery. So we have been putting this really through the paces. I'm really happy to see what the results are. I just checked my app this morning. We still have over 13 volts of power left. That's after really putting this battery through the paces. So right now it is about 8 o'clock. So if you would think about this, we would have probably gotten, a short night's rest and then got up and then towed again for a while. But before we do that tow, that last piece that we'll be doing today, let's make some coffee. Over here, again, I have no external power. Right here, I've got an auxiliary outlet that they provide in the this Montana. We've got, like I said, 7 outlets that come off of our inverter. So I've got, this is a Black & Decker Brew and Go. This is my favorite coffee maker. It's just like a pour almost. It makes what I say, a perfect cup of coffee. So I'm gonna get my Cafe Bustelo that I have here, and we'll make us a cup of coffee. All right, let's get our app out, and I'll just show you what the results of this looks like right now. Well, I broke the cardinal rule last night. I played with my smart shunt reading, and I wiped out my state of charge. So I apologize for that and what you're getting ready to see. Now, a little chilly this morning. The refrigerator is running. I just heard the furnace come on. So as we look now at the app, and let's see, that's not bad. That's not bad. Again, we're running lights here, which are all 12 volt. Refrigerator's running. It only draws, surprisingly, just about 100 watts, 150 watts. And the coffee maker is finishing. So we're at 1037. As soon as it clicks, we're going to see this drop down pretty quick. Pretty quick. I'm looking for it to click off. Boom. Clicked off. There you go. Down to 250 watts. So we'll let that finish. Now let's start us a bagel. So I just hit the toaster, and we're going to run up to about 1,000 watts. Still, look at the voltage. Still 12.57. So battery's doing a great job, and we're going to have plenty of capacity left over for our tow today. Okay, there we go. You heard the toaster pop. We're down to 234 watts, 12.81 volts still left. And the amperage that you're hearing over here and the draw that's continuing, again, is the lights in the refrigerator. All right, so we've had breakfast. You're probably wondering, well, Jerry, why isn't Joan having a cup of coffee? You're only showing one cup being made. Joan, being that southern girl that she is going to have her sweet tea, that cold sweet tea for breakfast. That's just the way we do it in the South. So we are going to shut the lights off now, bring the slides in. I will come back in about 5 or 6 hours. It's about 8:30 now. And that will look like the final tow to our destination. Long tows. Sometimes we do these things in 4-ish, 3-ish or 4-ish. But we're going to go ahead and put this battery, continue through the pace. One battery, think about this, one 300 amp battery. We've been running well over 24 hours. TVs, lights, refrigerator, 2 refrigerators. Really putting this thing through the paces. And now we're going to act as though we're going to tow. Jerry, aren't you going to charge this thing? Well, no. It's raining and overcast still, day 2. So we're not going to get hardly any solar benefit, if any at all. All right, so I'm going to see you back in a few hours. I think this test of the new LiTime 300 amp hour battery has been a success. I've really pushed it. We have had a perfect time to be able to test this. For the past 2 days, we've either had rain or heavily overcast skies, and virtually no input coming in from our solar panels. I did leave the solar panels on there just so I could use that as a second reading from my Victron app. But overall, we have really pushed this. So let's look at 2 things. I do have a fraction amount of solar coming in. It's basically insignificant. But we can get a capacity left on the battery over 30 hours with no input. Let's take a quick look at that. I'm not going to be able to correct the capacity setting that you see up at the top until I bring the battery back up to a total recharge. But let's look at what we do have here. We've got 12.61 volts, and we are using about 190 watts. That's going to be the refrigerator and the handful of lights that I currently have on. Now, so this isn't a total waste. Let's see what roughly, this is a good rule of thumb. I have a chart here that I will show you of what 12.6 volts on a lithium battery shows us how much capacity is left. And here's a chart that I have. This is a rule of thumb, but as you see here, we're around that 12.8, roughly about 17% of the battery. So we have heavily used this battery for almost 30 solid hours with little to no input from the solar panels and not hooked up to shore power. I think this is a good testament to what this battery and how it's been able to perform for us. And I'm pretty happy with it. I think this was a good practical test. Again, I was not going to destroy the battery, open it up, and hook all kinds of power tools and those types of things to it just to be able to deplete the battery. I really felt like the best application, at least for my needs, and I hope you as a viewer can appreciate, is what it looks like to be able to use one of these batteries and stretch it really beyond its limits. In reality, I doubt that I will do many 8 and 9 hour tows 2 in a row. It just takes too much of a physical toll on me and Joan. Usually we're in the 4 to 5 and maybe at a maximum 6 hours. That is typically what we end up doing most of the time. And then on occasion we will stop at a harvest host, or we'll stop somewhere in the middle, but it's a rare occurrence. I think in most applications we're going to be towing from point A to point B, and it's going to be great to be able to pull somewhere mid-stop when it gets into the warmer months, be able to fix us a lunch at a rest stop, hook up a fan or two to blow on us, turn the exhaust fans on. We've got the max airs here to kind of suck the hot air out, to make it comfortable for us while we're stopping, and then have that assurance, and this is what's key, have the assurance that when we get to the campground, we can lower the jacks, we can extend the slides, and still have plenty of capacity to be able to run whenever we need it. So that 300 amp hour battery did a very good job. I'm very pleased with it. I'm going to leave you some links in the description below on how you can acquire your LiTime battery. They do have 100 amp, 200 amp, 300 amp, they even have 400 amp batteries. So depending on what your configuration is, whether you want to stack these, if you want to do 12, 24, or 48 volt systems, you can do that as well. They've got a ready chart to be able to do that. And if you want to have a monster system, you definitely have the capabilities of doing that with these larger batteries. Or if you want to follow a case like I have, if you have a smaller need, you can run one 100 amp battery, or if you just don't want to take up a lot of capacity and fill it with multiple batteries, you can go with a 200, 300, or 400 amp batteries and just go with one single system. Well, thank you LiTime for providing this battery for us to review. I hope other opportunities come up in the near future as other battery manufacturers contact us and ask us to review their batteries. We look forward to be able to test those. I hope you find these product reviews helpful. If you do, give us a thumbs up. If you've never subscribed to I Love RV Life, please do so. And I am always open to be able to do more reviews, whether it's products. We're getting ready to travel some this year. It's starting to pick up and it's getting warmer. We'll be heading to Florida next week. And then we have a number of other trips that we have scheduled all the way through November, so we're looking forward to that, and we'll be able to share those with you as well. If you ever have ideas on what you would like to do or like for us to be able to share with you, we're always open to those. Product reviews, places to go. Go out to ilovervlife.com and go to our Contact Us page. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you, or just give us comments on today's video. So thank you so much. Appreciate you watching. I love doing these products just as much as I love RV life.